Three, two, one, and here we go. Hello, everyone. My name is Martin Stepanek. Welcome to the 5th episode of the Glutathione Experience podcast series. We're on the line this evening with Krista Woods. Welcome, Krista.
Hi, Martin.
So I'm really excited about this interview with you because, and sharing your journey with everyone, because fibromyalgia is one of those diagnoses out there that doctors throw out when they really don't have an answer. And there's a lot of people that suffer with that condition. And so I'm hopeful that in hearing your story and what you share, that it brings hope to a lot of people out there that otherwise wouldn't know where to turn. So just to make things clear for everybody, you are clinically diagnosed with fibromyalgia, correct?
Yes, I got diagnosed by a specialist. Ask me what type of specialist, I can't remember, but I did double check it with my family doctor a few years ago, and she went back through the notes on the system, and because she says, oh, did I just tell you that, or did we have it actually diagnosed? And it was by a specialist. Right. I think it may be a rheumatologist. I don't remember.
So did that specialist describe to you, what that diagnosis even means, or in general, or?
If she did, I don't remember. So it was a minimum 8 years ago. And I think I just left the office crying because I have other family members that have the same diagnosis.
Oh, wow. So this actually runs in your family.
Yeah.
I think you also mentioned to me before that there's another situation that runs in your family, correct? Your mom and your grandmother or something?
No, all my grandparents except for one and their siblings had Alzheimer's.
Oh, okay.
So it was that entire generation. So 3 out of the 4 grandparents and their immediate siblings, blood siblings, suffer from Alzheimer's as well.
Wow. So now in terms of the fibromyalgia, it's actually been longer than 8 years. You were diagnosed with 8 years, but what's your earliest recollection of symptoms type thing?
Always. When I was maybe 6 or 7, I had leg pain. My mom I'd cry in bed at night. I have night sweats since I was about the same age. My mom took me to the doctor, and I was diagnosed with growing pains. And yeah, it was so there was yeah, just suck it up. It's yeah, that's pretty much how it was dealt with. And I was also
back then it wasn't really, fibromyalgia wasn't really even talked about. I don't know if it was even clinically defined as per se.
I don't think anybody knew about it.
Yeah.
And I also got very sick in grade 3 and then again in grade 5.
So what were the primary symptoms that you suffered? You just mentioned leg pains, but expand on the symptoms for us a little bit and all the different things that you experienced.
Night sweats. So since I was a child, I would wake up completely soaked. I would sweat in the middle of the night. Always had rubber sheets as a kid, just because I'd be head to toe soaked. Migraines, that would take me out for 2 days at a time with the nausea and the vomiting, and I had to be in a dark room with a cloth over my forehead and my eyes and out for 2 days at a time. It was just malaise. I don't know how else to describe it.
I look at that. I hear you talking about this and thinking about it from such an early age. And I think about my childhood, and, I have my aches and pains now because of, sports injuries and car accidents and all the stupid things we do. But as a kid, pain? No. I mean, I was a ball of energy that never stopped, right? So to imagine somebody, and now I kind of can understand debilitating conditions because I've kind of been there, but to think about somebody going through that all their life from childhood, into their midlife range it's just unfathomable, right? So so considering that lifelong struggle, I'm just wondering, if you experienced any like stigma type things from peers when you were in school, how did you deal with that?
I fell a lot in high school, so I'd be walking across the library and I'd do a face plant into the floor for no reason at all. Like I just, my legs would I'd just stop working. I fell right up until I still fall. Okay, so and there's no rhyme or reason. I will walk across the room and drop. I've been checked for many years. I don't have it. I've gone out under every test. And I do get off track a lot. So if I have to re-ask the question, that's okay. But the stigma, when I got the diagnosis of fibromyalgia, not only did I cry, but I started telling my family members, this is what my diagnosis is. And I had certain family members that are like, oh, you're just full of it. Or, yeah, right, that's not a real thing. A lot of, you're just clumsy. You're just sick a lot. Just nobody would believe me. So I stopped talking about it. And this is one of the first times in years, other than with my doctors, that I've actually openly, publicly discussed it. I would say there was a point in my life where I hadn't talked about it for years. And I told somebody I had it, and she called me a liar because I never complained about being in pain. So I stopped talking about it, but then when I actually did mention it, I was told that, no, you don't, because you never tell anybody you're hurting. So, that's
actually I hate to be rude, but that's a really lame response by anybody, because most people suffer in silence. They don't talk about it necessarily, right?
And I don't talk about it because when I did talk about it, I was just shut down by people that were close to me, and then, like, not by the family members that experienced it as well, but by other family members. And then when you do open up, to have somebody call you a liar because you don't talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was weird.
So you've described, focus issues and migraines and forgetfulness. What's it like? I mean, going through your day as you're actually, what's your vocation?
I work in the optical field.
And so I remember you relaying a story to me, and I'm going to let you talk about it because I don't want to get the details wrong, and I'm not sure I remember them fully. But you mentioned something to me about filling out a chart or a survey or something, do you remember the story that I'm referring to? Or?
Yeah. So at my job, I have trays of work that I do. So I make glasses, and I have trays in front of me that you have to follow certain protocols and procedures and measurements and everything. And that was actually a side effect of one of the medications I was taking. So that's not I do have memory issues, but not like what I did when I was on that particular medication. So I was going through a couple of trays, and I know that I did those jobs, but there was mistakes in them. And I found the mistakes, and I'm going, oh my gosh, I don't remember doing that. And because I have to, when a job comes in, I have to check it to make sure that it's right. And jobs that come in and they'd be just wrong. And I'm sitting there going, okay, I know I did this like a week ago, but I have no recall, no recollection, no knowing that what I did in that moment. So I'm finding mistakes a week, 2 weeks later, and I have to, and then it is very frustrating because there's no recall. There's no, even my daughters, one of my daughters during that time, she said, I'd have a conversation with you. And 2 days later, I'd bring up the same thing, and I'd swear up and down that she had never mentioned it before. And she says, since I've changed what I'm doing, she says, she says, I can recall things now.
So really, what you're saying is there's no ability to actually exist in the moment, to be fully engaged with somebody, so that you are in the moment and and you can commit things to memory, right?
I can be in the moment. It's recalling.
Yeah.
It's like there's no recall. It's really, really strange. It's like you look at something and you know it's your handwriting and you don't remember writing it down. It's really bizarre.
That's almost like, just brings to mind my mother's stroke. She had several major strokes, and she has no short-term recall. It's just that yours is sort of sporadic. You know, is that
It was pretty consistent while I was on a particular medication. It was,
right?
and the higher the dose, the worse the memory issues were getting.
No, thank you for the drugs, right?
It's like, yeah. So,
Oh,
and yeah, and that particular medication, I started taking it because I tried like a whole bunch of others and I had issues with those. And this one I was told it won't get rid of your pain, but it'll give you endurance. And that's why I started taking it. And at first it did, but then I would have flare-ups. And so when I had a flare-up, I lasted about a year. So the last time I had a flare-up, I went into the doctor and they said, okay, we're increasing your dose. And then when they increased the dose, then the memory issues came. And having had all those family members with Alzheimer's and with memory issues, like the very senior members of my family, I freaked out. And
sure.
it was scary because I missed 2 appointments in one day. I was an hour late for both of them because I had no idea. And it's not like I didn't have other reminders. I had a written day planner. I had my Google Calendar, and I had an EMR system to remind me of those appointments. And I still missed 2 appointments in one day.
Wow.
So it prompted me to call the doctor and say, hey, what are my options? And so when I went into the doctor and talked about options for that, so I could take more medication, I said, well, what happens when I take the maximum dose of this medication? So it's controlling my symptoms, but it's causing other issues.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you got to the maximum dose, the option was adding in opiates to control the pain.
Right.
And I'm like, well, I don't want to do that. Like, no, it's like, that's not really an option for me. And so I asked the doctor to come off that medication.
Right.
And so it wasn't the doctor initiating it. It was me saying, no, this is not how I'm going to live. And let's see what other options are there.
Good for you. So with all those challenges, how did you ever make it through college, or high school, even in college? Like, I mean,
I plan my days. If I am very well aware of my limits. And when I was younger, I would just do things until I dropped. It's like
right.
Too much. And a good example of this is, and when I say drop, I mean, my body shuts down. I went to an all-day conference probably about 10 years ago, and I came home on a Saturday night. I didn't have my kids because they were with their dad. And I sat down on the couch, and on a Saturday night, I was eating my hamburger, and I woke up Sunday morning with a bite of hamburger in my mouth and the TV still on in the same spot that I was in Saturday night, which is really surprising. So when I drop, I drop. I don't have a choice. I'm like, I'll be at a party and or out at a bonfire, and I'm like, I'm going to bed. I'm done. So, but it's pretty startling to wake up on a Sunday morning with a bite of food in your mouth, and you know that you've been there at least 12 hours.
So how many medications have you been on over the years?
I have, well, when I go into the doctor's office and they have that list down the side, they call it the bands on there's like a whole list of things that I've tried. A lot of them cause me tremors. So I can't take SSRIs. Because I go and I twitch, and I twitched bad enough that it woke Steve up in the middle of the night and freaked him out. So like I just laying in bed, and he thought I was having a seizure, and it's not seizures, it's tremors. But I can't take SSRIs. Amitriptyline makes me sleep 16 hours a day. Vioxx was wonderful. And I took it in 2004 for about 3 weeks. And that stuff was flipping amazing. However, they recalled it after 3 weeks. And I thought, oh, I've got another week's worth of medication, because I only was given 1 month of it. And I kept taking it. And then I found out that in a 5-year period, it killed like 120,000 women after they took it for a month. So and I even talked to a pharmacist recently about it, and he said, yeah, that everybody loved that stuff. But, you know, death as a side effect is not.
Yeah, that's really not.
No, and the funny thing was, I trusted, I was a doctor, not my regular doctor that gave it to me, but I trusted that the doctors know when they give you medication. And so that I have adverse effects from a lot of medications, a lot of different medications.
So when you got diagnosed originally, or even ongoing, you know, did your doctor ever, you know, do a history of your family and such to look at, you know, potential for, you know, causes of the fibromyalgia, or what did they? How did they?
I think I've had every test under the sun.
Really?
Yeah, about 2 years ago, I had an earache for 3 months straight. I went for hearing tests. The audiologist told me that if I heard any better, I'd be a cat. Because I hear everything. Like I like hyper hearing. I don't know. It's so I hear everything. I've been through abdominal diagnostics. I've been through CAT scans. I haven't had an MRI, but when something happens, the doctor puts me through the ropes and checks things.
But did they look at your family history, like mother and grandmother and so on, to say, did they have anything that would maybe, or was there a trauma along the line when you were very young that caused it? You know, did any of that get looked at?
No, I don't think so. But I've had the same doctor since I was a teenager. So anything, I've always checked in with the medical professionals anytime anything's going on, because they're the ones with the knowledge. And so I rely heavily on my family doctor. So yeah, so they know, like, if my parents, if something new comes out with my parents, I tell the doctor and they put it into the system, so that they have all those reference points. So
doesn't mean they look at them.
Yeah, but I do have a good relationship with my doctor, and even when my doctor sold a practice and got a new doctor, I have a good relationship. So
yeah.
Now,
did you ever have any physical trauma or head trauma when you were younger?
Right here. Can you see that?
Yeah, there is like a lump or something, right?
Scar.
A scar, yeah.
Huge scar. Counts for the gray hair. That's where my gray streak starts. Yeah, in first grade, I caught 2 boys throwing rocks in the schoolyard, and it was picture day, and told them that they needed to immediately stop throwing rocks. And the only reason is because they were throwing them at the end of the tunnel, and I wanted to sit down, and I was in a dress. So I went and sat on their target, and I don't remember after that. I think my parents told me I was out for 2 days.
In the hospital, or?
I must have been, because I wasn't conscious. So
you were unconscious for 2 days?
I think so. That's what I've been told. So
right.
I have no recollection.
Which means severe trauma to the head, concussion. Yeah, which can, especially at a young age like that could, I mean, they know from in recent studies and stuff like that, they showed that if it's not, you know, properly and effectively treated, that even years later, it can resurface because it actually causes degradation within parts of the brain.
Yeah.
So there's an entire possibility as to the start of it. You never know, right?
I also
Well,
have
it is, but
I have a 2-inch scar across the back of my head as well because I knocked. I didn't tell you about that one. So that was about 2 years later.
you're a walking hazard.
I am. Yeah.
So what happened on the back of your head now?
I was jumping on my bed and I fell back and hit the footboard of my bed.
Oh, yeah. That's so I'm not saying that that's necessarily anything to do with your diagnosis, but both of those certainly have potential. And that's kind of where I was going with asking about the doctor, if he actually looked into all of that stuff, because it might have been something that if they're on cue that they would go, oh, maybe we ought to do a brain scan and really see if there's anything in there that's happening, right? So
even so, if that's the case, it's not going to change where I'm at now.
absolutely.
So so I got to work with what I got, and where I'm at.
So now the doctor, you agreed with you, and you started to wean yourself off the medication, the one that was causing your memory loss, etc. And have you come off of any other medications? Are you still taking medications?
No. So when I got diagnosed, I didn't start medication right away.
Okay.
I actually fought it for several years until I got to the point where I was hurting enough that I was taking Tylenol and Advil a lot.
You were desperate.
Yeah. I was, because and then I go to the store and go to the pharmacy and pick up some T3s or T2s or whatever, the Tylenol with the codeine and the caffeine in it, in addition to the Tylenol and regular Tylenol and Advil. And I was taking a lot of that. And I think I started to feel the effects of doing that, because those medications, while they're good occasionally for spot fixing stuff, they're not something that you should necessarily take, I don't think, take regularly.
Right.
So I think those caused some other issues. And then I went to the doctor and said, okay, enough. And then I started trying some medications. And I took about 3 or 4 different ones before I landed on the one that I took for 2 years. And so then when I decided to come off it, I told the doctor that I was supplementing with glutathione. I didn't discuss how much with her, but and her response, and I told her what was in it. I showed it to her, and she says, well, if you feel good on it, and she said, it's not going to hurt. So go ahead.
Right. Well, that's cool. So now this is a nano glutathione technology, correct?
Yeah.
And you never had any kind of experience with glutathione, like precursors or anything like that prior. This is the first experience, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And how long have you been taking that now?
I didn't do it consistently until I started coming off the medication. So I had it, but I didn't take it. So I would do it for like a month and then stop and put it away. So it wasn't consistent. But since coming off the medication, I've minimum once a day, as many as 3 times a day.
Okay. And how long, so that's been how many months now?
5.
5 months? And where would you say you are cognitively and emotionally, et cetera, today versus 5 months ago?
Way better. So since coming off that medication, and I don't attribute this, the medication caused about a 35-pound weight gain. I was hungry continuously on the medication, so that hunger is gone now that I've stopped taking it. So I came off the medication in August last year. So that's almost 6 months, maybe 5.5 months. So I've lost weight because I'm not continuously eating because I'm hungry. So I think that's, but that's, what was the question again?
How are you feeling now compared to then? Yeah.
Feeling now, I'm sleeping better. Oh my gosh, like I can make it So there's the odd night that I'll take melatonin to go to sleep because I just lay in bed and I'm like, if I don't, I'll be up till like 2. But that's only maybe once every 2 or 3 weeks that I have to do that. When I do sleep, maybe going to bed at 11, 10, 30, 11, and I'm sleeping through till 6:30 the next morning.
That's awesome.
Without having to get up.
That's wonderful. I mean, that you can't ask for better than that.
So it's pretty cool because I actually and I feel good. So when I take sleep aids to sleep, I wake up in the morning feeling like garbage.
Right.
Yeah, and I have
a hangover.
Yeah, I feel hungover, and I have brutal dreams when I take them. Like if I take melatonin to sleep, I'm gonna have crazy dreams.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I'm waking up and I'm actually up in the morning and I'm feeling okay. Like I wake up well. It's not.
How are you finding your function now at work?
I'm not having the memory issues that I had. I've been 10 years at the same job, and so my coworkers were noticing because I'd say something. I have a desk in the back. We call it the hole because it's the cubby hole. Mm-hmm. It got nicknamed the hole, and I'll be in the hole, and I'll say something to my coworker, and she'd look at me and she says, "We just had that conversation 10 minutes ago at the front desk." And so that's kind of stopped. So it wasn't just me freaking out because I was having memory issues. Other people were noticing too. So that's slowed down a lot.
That's wonderful.
I'm still having some, but nothing like what it was.
It's absolutely amazing. So I'm going to just throw in a quick statement here before we open up the lines. If anybody has any questions, as always, I just want everybody, viewers, to know, anybody watching the video when we post it, to know that we are not doctors and clinicians or anything like that, or even scientists. And we're not purporting that glutathione is a cure or a treatment for any kind of disease or condition. But if you go to PubMed.gov, which is the U.S. National Library of Medicine, and you research glutathione, you'll find that medicinally speaking, as published in that database, just about every condition known to man has either a direct or indirect link to glutathione depletion. So what happens when you supplement with an effective glutathione product can be actually quite dramatic, and obviously in Krista's case, as with just about everybody that we interview, a very dramatic experience and uplifting experience, let's say, because things just seem to work better. So keep that in mind. We're not pushing this as a cure-all or anything like that. It's just information that you can go out and search out yourself. It's an encouragement really to go out and look for your own answers, because the medical community doesn't always have the answer. So beyond that, if anybody has a question directly for Krista that they would like to ask, please unmute yourself and feel free to chime in. Are you all really, really polite, or did we just cover all the bases?
So I still hurt, and I still have my days. I had a really busy day last Saturday, and I worked all day on the weekend, and Saturday night I went out to visit friends, which doesn't happen very often, and I tapped out at 9:30. I had to send an apology to my best friend saying, "I'm sorry, I had to go." And so I'm feeling pretty good. I don't know what normal is. I don't have anything to reference. I know what bad is. Like, I have a very good handle on what bad is. I have a very good handle on what pain is, but this is something I'm always going to have. It's not going to go away. And but I feel taking the supplementation is helping enough that I feel good.
You're living life again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still plan my days. I know that I have to book appointments in the morning. I know that, like I said, if I'm busy all day or if I have a big event coming up, that I'm rested before I go to the event.
Boy, I got to tell you, Krista, that planning thing you're talking about sure tells me that we're going to have you on one of our business calls as well, because it proves that it works. That's how you got through life, right?
Yeah.
Go, Audrey. You had your hand up here. Did you?
Yeah, I can't imagine, Krista. That's an incredible story, and for so long that you experienced these symptoms. That you must have been incredibly deficient in glutathione
and other things
and other things, right?
So when I got in 2012, I got really sick. I was completely exhausted. I typically have low iron, and my iron count was at 4. If my hemoglobin had been any lower, they would have sent me to emerge for a blood transfusion.
Yeah, you're literally a walking miracle.
So I deal with things as they come.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think I've tried every medication out there to try and find what works, and not everything works.
May I comment on your most recent comment that you said that you think you might have to live with this forever?
Mm-hmm.
When we give our body what it needs, it can return to proper form and function over time. And it's like peeling back the layer of an onion, right? There's discomfort every time you peel back, but in your case, you continue to build.
If we could just get Steve to cough up some of that nootropic formula there, it would sure be amazing to see what that does for you.
Yeah. And when I first started taking the supplement, it didn't do anything. I felt nothing for a couple of weeks. And but persistence and keep on going, and it's better now.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It was literally working on this at a cellular level first.
Mm-hmm. I'd just like to chime in here, Krista, because as a fellow fibro chronic fatigue sufferer, I can tell you it just keeps getting better. You'll always just keep getting better. It doesn't always seem like it, but it is literally like Audrey said, you're peeling away layers and layers of trauma like an onion. And
it's more than just fibro. It's a lot of different things. I mean, because I've got my own issues too, and I look back at where I was when I first started the glutathione journey 15 years ago, and even today, 15 years later, I'll go, "Oh wow, man! I just had another experience." You know?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Let's celebrate that.
Yeah, start keeping a journal, because you're going to keep. I mean, you're only 5 months in. You've got a long way to go. You've got a lot of surprises coming. Good ones.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And it works on what your body needs.
Oh, go ahead, Sheila.
It works on what your body needs. So you may not notice it in one area, but other areas you'll definitely notice it.
Yeah.
So keep up the good work.
Mm-hmm.
Stick with it.
Thanks for sharing.
Yes, thanks for sharing your story.
Thanks for giving me a place to share it. So,
well, we greatly appreciate it, and I just pray and hope that thousands of people end up seeing this and experience the same thing, because that's how we'll touch a lot of lives around the world, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So.
Exactly.
Thank you, Krista.
All right, thank you,
Thank
folks.
you.
I'm going to sign off now and bid you all good night, and until the next episode.
Good night. Good night.
Night.
Take care, everyone.